Once you're there on that station, that little square painted in the ground, and you're standing there on your own, you've got to do the business. It's down to you and that target, and no one else can help you. And so it is terrifying, but that's why we do it. That's why we love it. But Rio, these guys and girls will go into a holding camp first. They'll probably spend anything up to a week there. I'm not sure exactly where it will be, but they will be able to acclimatise, speak to their families, get used to having other athletes around them from Team GB. This will be only Team GB, and it'll take them, a few days to get over that. And they'll then be sort of, I would assume, taken by plane into Rio. They'll go through specific Olympic channels, so they won't have to queue. There'll be people everywhere guiding them, telling them what to do, what to wear, what to say, what not to say. And there is sadly lots of that. You're guided, told, and helped along the way. The British Olympic Association were brilliant, by the way, and I can't thank them enough for all of their support, because they're actually not centrally funded, they're privately funded, and as a result, they do the best they can with what they've got. When you arrive in the games, they'll go through an induction like I did in London. They'll be told where the loos are, where they can get something to eat, and it will then sort of all start to unravel from there. It's huge. I don't really know how to explain it in just a few words, but if I give you just a flavour, we were dropped off at Bisley, and that's where we left our cars. My dad very kindly drove me up, dropped me off. You put your bags into a massive bus and you get taken into the Olympic Park. You get scanned about 10 times to make sure that you haven't got a bomb or whatever else on you. Your guns are taken separately with their ammunition to the armory. You're inducted. I was inducted by Clive Woodward into the Olympic Park. He tells you where things like the loos are, where you can get a bite to eat at all times of the day, when your clothes might be washed, when your beds might be changed, all this kind of stuff. The basic stuff, the things that you kind of just need to know but don't need to know, if that makes sense. And that takes a few hours. And then, of course, you're shown your room. I was sharing with a guy called James Huckle, who was a rifle shooter, nearly always sharing. The rooms are quite small, quite basic. I had a bed extension because I'm 6'6", and you make that clear when in the build-up to the games. You do things called kitting out. It's normally a 2 to 3 day affair where you collect all your clothes and they do a sort of preliminary induction into what the Olympics is about and what is going to happen. You're given a sheet that will tell you what you wear on every day so that Team GB look the same. And you then have a little stroll and you tend to walk around. We all went round together as a group of shooters, and you just spend the entire time with your mouth open because it is so huge. It isn't a village. It's like a high-rise town rammed into a city, typically. And you try and get your bearings, you get lost. You get your bearings, you get lost. You get your bearings, you get lost. It's a nightmare. And that nightmare is the most wonderful nightmare, by the way. It's fantastic. And that takes time. And so you just try and make it home. You try and be comfortable in that environment. I remember when I first went onto the range just to train, I was terrified. And also what is so strange is, at least for the first day, possibly a couple of days, the media are allowed to actually get access to you. So there are plenty of people in your face with cameras chatting to you, and you're trying to shoot, trying to train, and you're trying to move people off the peg as you're walking onto it. And when I say people, there are sort of 50, 60 people with cameras all around you whilst you're trying to train and chat to Richard. At the time I was shooting with Richard Folds, and Ian Coley was there, and it's difficult, and you want to just get the job done. You're there to do a job, and you feel great or you don't feel great, and that's the worst place to be, because if you're not shooting well, and I went through a real roller coaster in the build-up, you want time to prepare and absorb the range and get used to the conditions. And if you've got someone with a camera right there, it's difficult, really difficult. After those few days, you then get back into a sort of normal system of training. And then in the build-up to comp, you start to panic, you start to worry, your brain starts to whir, you think, what if? Lots of what if. What if I fall over as I'm walking to the range with 2,500 people watching me? Will they all cheer? You can imagine as you're walking through the dinner hall with a tray when you're young, and you fall over and everyone cheers. That's the feeling you get, that utterly terrifying feeling that you're going to look like an idiot. And it's bizarre what your brain does, and you play tricks on yourself. And anyway, so you're there to shoot. You arrive on the comp day. I really struggled with nerves. No bad thing. I love nerves. but you've got to control them in the right way, otherwise they control you, and that's a big problem. I tried my best to play down my chances. I was number 2 in the world at the time. I'd just been demoted from number 1 to number 2. I had a poor run of form for about a month and a half in the build-up, and then found some form again. I went back to the Middle East and sort of had quietly been going about my business. So it was no bad thing that I'd been demoted from 1 to 2, and I kept telling people it's my first Olympics, it's very unlikely that I'll do anything, which is strange because most people try and build themselves up. I just didn't want any extra pressure. I had a huge amount of expectation on myself. I knew that if I did everything right, I could win an Olympic gold medal. I could set a new world record. I could beat my previous record if everything went right. It didn't go right for me on the day, bizarrely. People would say, well, surely it did because you won gold. No, I shot 188 out of 200. That's a terrible score. But I won by 2 targets, so that's got to be good news. But I didn't actually shoot as well as I knew I could. So I had said to myself, if I shoot the best I can, I'll set a new world record. If I shoot good, I could win gold. If I shoot average, I'll medal. If I shoot badly, I'll final. That's what I said to myself, whereas I told everyone else, I'm my first Olympics, I'll do the best I can, but let's just wait and see. Try and play down your chances because you don't want to put added pressure on yourself. And so I hope that those guys and girls going to Rio are doing the same thing. They may not be, and that's no bad thing. It's down to them. It's a very individual sport, and that's the wonderful thing about it. But it's also the horrible thing about it, because once you're there on that station, that little square painted in the ground, and you're standing there on your own, you've got to do the business. It's down to you and that target, and no one else can help you. And so it is terrifying, but that's why we do it. That's why we love it.